women's flyweight squaring off at MSG. Coming up this weekend, we have Barstool Sports own Meatball Molly McCann taking on cold-blooded Erin Blanchfield, the 23-year-old phenom who's getting a little bit of a hometown feel for this fight. She represents Renzo Gracie's there in New York. And for Blanchfield, the lone loss on that record, a very chintzy split decision to Tracy Cortez. You go back and watch that fight, you make your own assumptions and assessments, but if you look at it for Blanchfield in the UFC, it's been nothing but wins. She's like DJ Khaled. And if you do consider it too, outside of the UFC, a lot of very, very nice wins to go along for Blanchfield. I mean, you go down through the record, win over Kay Hansen, a win over Victoria Leonardo, and a win over Ultimate Fighter finalist Brogan Walker. All outside of the UFC with Invicta, wins over Sarah Alpar, Miranda Maverick, and JJ Aldrich. And Blanchfield was quite a heavy favorite against Alpar and against Aldrich, and a slight underdog when she went in to take on Miranda Maverick. Looked really good in that fight, out-grappled the grappler, and you know how good Maverick looked last weekend with her grappling. But for Blanchfield, if you just look at her last fight, you just look at it as a win on the page against JJ Aldrich, you can draw your assumptions there. She struggled mightily with everything until she got that deep standing guillotine where it was elbow in, elbow down, cranking up, and she got the tap. She struggled in every facet of that fight.
I agree 100%. And that's the
time out. I don't know why I pronounced it facet. It's facet, but I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm glad you addressed it because I thought it was weird too and I didn't say anything.
Okay.
Erin Blanchfield is a lot like Sean Brady before he has struggled with some of the upper echelon talents. But that is the weird thing about Blanchfield. Is it better to almost get a loss to Molly McCann on your record now so you realize what you have to work on as you do progress through your career? Because we talk about this with fighters who are 21, 22, 23 all the time. It's, hey, you look at the 6 months that they have in between every fight, they level up multiple times in between every single fight. That doesn't happen when you're 31, 32, 33. So for Blanchfield, she's still in that period where she can make those big leaps in between every single fight. So it almost would be nice for her to kind of suffer that defeat, for her to try to rework some parts of her game. But if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And for Erin Blanchfield, her offensive grappling has been so dominant up until this point that even with the Miranda Maverick matchup, that was the conversation. It was, hey, Miranda Maverick's a pretty good offensive grappler too. We know how good a ground and pound is, how damaging she can be. Erin Blanchfield looked really good with her own wrestling. Now, to be fair, Blanchfield was a lot bigger, it felt like, physically than Miranda Maverick in that fight, and I don't know if she's going to have that same luxury physically against someone like Molly McCann, but McCann is a very good boxer. We know how much power she has in her hands. I know they're going to show you that spinning elbow a lot, but for the most part...
that spinning elbow, two of them in a row.
Exactly.
2 performance bonuses off them.
But for the most part, I would say Molly McCann's success, at least the sustained success in her game, comes from her boxing and her offensive wrestling too. I know you talked about Brad Riddell in the opening for our Fight of the Night screen, and I agree with you 100%. Brad Riddell is marketed to you as a striker, but what does he do every single fight that kind of catches you off guard? He'll go for a double leg takedown and has a lot of success with it. Molly McCann is very similar in that capacity. Offensively, she does have decent grappling, I would say, but she does struggle defensively a lot with the takedown attempt and with her own submission defense and just with her grappling defense overall. So I look at this fight very much as a water and oil kind of fight. Either Erin Blanchfield gets it down to the mat and it is all her world, it's not even close whatsoever, or Molly McCann can kind of do the unthinkable almost, defend some of those early takedowns, damage Erin Blanchfield, especially early on in the fight, to make her a little bit more tentative with going for some of those takedown attempts, and I could see Molly McCann having some success on the feet. I just think the takedown defense is going to be such a big issue for her.
Blanchfield fought a striker last time out. She was taken down by the striker and struggled with the cage pressure of Aldrich. She got countered. Listen, Monday to Sunday, it was a 9-to-5 job for her. And the trouble is,
I think Aldrich is a little bit more technical than McCann.
With Erin Blanchfield, the trouble is she throws a lot of kicks and no, it's not the biggest part of her arsenal, but when you do factor it in, a lot of body kicks. And the thing that she does is, for a lot of people, grapplers, wrestlers, you're just going to go out there and you're going to shoot. For Blanchfield, she'll throw a kick to close the distance to then get her takedowns, and that's where she can get countered by a lot of strikers. She also, when she goes to strike, she'll get into the phone booth and then square up and drop her hands, and that's where Molly McCann can take over. And for McCann, she's fought fighters like Blanchfield in the past. She's had varied levels of success. The last time McCann fought a ranked opponent, She fought the 15th. She was 15th ranked, and she was taking on Tyler Santos. She was a favorite in that fight. It was the last time I used lock of the night. I said Molly McCann, mark it, lock of the night. I also said Mark Jacasey, lock it. He's going to beat Rafael Fiziev, same card.
Hey, we're wrong sometimes.
Got both of those ones wrong. But when I do look at this one, Matt, you consider it for McCann. This is wild. 127 significant strikes in a fight of the night against Jeon Kim. One leg kick. Her fight against Luana Karolina, 85 significant strikes before she finished it. 5 leg kicks. Her fight against Hannah Goldie, 24 significant strikes.
It's a Dan Henderson style.
1 leg kick. So Molly McCann, not big at all on the kicks. If she's a better wrestler than her opponent, better grappler, she will wrestle. If not, it's just boxing. But boxing to set up the wrestling, it's great. She's looked amazing in these last 3 fights against lower levels competition in the division. Jeon Kim, really close fight. Could have gone either way. Luana Karolina looked really good early on. Looked bad as it went on.
Bit, yeah.
And then landed that crazy shot against Hannah Goldie. It was all Molly McCann. But for Blanchfield, I wrestle with the issues of, is the striking defense going to be a problem in this one? Because if it's southpaw, again, those straight punches of J.J. Aldrich landed all day, and for Molly McCann, out of the orthodox stance, she can have a lot of success there, too.
You guys can chirp me if you want to, and I've always thought higher of J.J. Aldrich than probably the average UFC fan. I think her boxing is semi-technical, and I do think she is a decent fighter on the feet, especially with her hands. I think McCann has more power, but I think her shots are a lot more looping shots than they are kind of the crisper shots of someone like Aldrich. So I do think McCann is the better striker in this fight, don't get me wrong. I just don't think she's going to have as much success because of her type of strikes against Blanchfield.
McCann walks down her opponents. Aldrich invites it for the counters, though.
That's a very good point. And I do think the fact that McCann is the aggressor in a lot of these matchups is going to make her more susceptible to the takedown from Blanchfield. Because if McCann does start to get really hand-happy and really sit down on her punches, it's going to make Blanchfield that much more successful if she is able to duck under and really get a hold of those hips and go for a takedown attempt. Like, I think Blanchfield's kind of that 2.0 Jillian Robertson. Jillian Robertson was kind of the original really good grappler in this division when the division was very young, but we saw in the bantamweight division after the Ronda Rouseys were no longer champion, there was kind of that second rise of the division where you had the fighters like Amanda Nunes, Juliana Pena, and the likes who are kind of at the top right now. I think Blanchfield's kind of that second version of a Jillian Robertson. Robertson is still a good grappler, don't get me wrong, but I think Blanchfield's that and that much more. So I agree with you on all of the red flags moving forward. I think there are a lot of concerns when
I see them in this fight.
I don't know if I do, because this is the thing. I think McCann could get the finish, but I don't think she's going to get the finish. And if she's not able to get the finish, if she's taken down for, let's say, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes in some portions of this fight, I just don't know if she's going to be able to get that time back on the feet. I could be wrong, don't get me wrong, but I think she is going to struggle defensively with the grappling.
So, Blanchfield opened a minus 300. She's minus 400. McCann opened a plus 375. Blanchfield opened minus 500, minus 400. McCann opened plus 375, plus 300. Blanchfield in her UFC career, minus 380 against Sarah Alpar, plus 125 against Miranda Maverick, minus 425 against J.J. Aldrich. Yikes. You have a look at the Topology votes, Matt. Surprise to us, they are to you. Now listen. Molly McCann has a very large following, but Erin Blanchfield's a giant favorite, and I think the fans have her. I'm going to say over under 80% Erin Blanchfield.
I'll say under, but she'll be the favorite.
It's slightly under. 977 total votes, 76% Blanchfield, 78% by decision for the 24% that I'm McCann, 34% by decision, 57% by knockout. I think if Molly McCann wins, she wins by decision, and I think Erin Blanchfield beats her in this fight. I think she's going to be able to get the takedowns, and I think she's going to be able to control portions of this fight. I don't love her top game. That's what kind of lost it against Tracy Cortez, if it did. I thought Blanchfield won, but regardless, for Blanchfield, I think they can come early and often. However, she squares up in the phone booth where McCann hits a lot of her opponents. Exactly. She has good kicks, but it opens her to counters. Like, I have a lot of red flags. I hate the odds. If you go with the underdog McCann, I don't think you're a donkey at all.
Erin Blanchfield needs to watch every Marvin Vettori fight, go home and go, damn, I'll fight just like that from now on. Because I do think that is kind of the game plan for her to have a lot of success. Don't play around on the feet unless you are having a lot of success. Now, Marvin is a good striker, so it's not the best example, but you get the idea. He's just a smart guy at not eating big shots while he does go for his takedowns. Erin Blanchfield could learn a lot from that type of game plan, because you're right, she does leave herself very open with her own striking. That's always going to be a concern against some of the better strikers. Like, if Blanchfield fought Tyler Santos, It'd be a difficult fight for Erin Blanchfield. Like, yes, she could get on top and have success. I'm not completely counting her out, but on the feet, that's a very difficult matchup for her. And Santos could even have some success in the grappling. So I do think there is an evolution for Blanchfield to happen. I still like her in this fight.
You have a couple of rising fighters. McCann looking for a fourth in a row. Erin Blanchfield looking to keep that long extended win streak on the go. Both of us going with Blanchfield. Me, incredibly reluctantly, in the matchup, a big-time card at MSG this weekend, headlined by 2 title fights. And oh, by the way, Dustin Poirier's fighting Michael Chandler. Get ready for that fight, folks. It should be great. Keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, we always say.
Let's get into it.